Winter, by modern logic, is an enemy you don't negotiate with. It is cold, it is damp, it is relentless. And if you choose to live underground, surrounded by dirt and stone, with no powerful heating system and no modern insulation, every contemporary assumption says the same thing. This should not work. Dirt is cold. Stone pulls heat away. Underground air is damp and stagnant. Sunlight barely reaches you. Describe this setup to a modern engineer, and it sounds like a textbook example of heat loss and discomfort, a failure waiting to happen. Yet history tells a very different story. For thousands of years, humans survived brutal winters using nothing more than earth and stone. Not briefly, not as an emergency measure, but consistently, across generations. So the real question isn't what they built. The real question is why it worked. When modern intuition says it shouldn't have, the mistake we make today is simple but critical. We assume that staying warm means producing more heat, more fire, more fuel, more power. Ancient builders did not think this way. They didn't try to overpower winter. They made winter slow. This distinction changes everything. The human body does not fail the moment temperatures drop. It fails when heat leaves the body faster than it can be replaced. The speed of heat loss matters far more than the number on a thermometer. A modern house can feel warm the moment the heater turns on, but turn it off and the temperature collapses just as fast. There is warmth, but no stability. Earth and stone structures work in the opposite way. They do not feel warm immediately. They do not respond quickly. And that is precisely the point. Winter is most dangerous when it changes fast, when wind strips heat away, when air moves constantly, when the environment steals warmth before the body can react. Ancient shelters removed that speed. They placed people inside spaces where change was resisted, where temperature shifted slowly, where sudden cold had nowhere to go. This wasn't primitive luck. It was environmental control, without force. Once you understand this, the story stops being about clever ancient buildings. It becomes something more uncomfortable. It suggests that we may have misunderstood winter itself. And if we've misunderstood the enemy, then everything we've built to fight it deserves a second look. When people talk about dying in winter, they almost always blame the same thing: low temperatures. Ice? Snow? Freezing air. It sounds obvious, but it's also incomplete. If cold itself were the true killer, humans could never have survived in places where temperatures remain low for months at a time. Yet history shows the opposite. People have lived for generations in consistently cold regions, while others have died in places that were not nearly as cold. So what's the difference? The answer is not temperature, it is rate. The human body does not fear cold. It fears losing heat too quickly. Even at rest, your body produces heat. Your heart beats. Your organs work. Your metabolism never truly stops. Death from cold happens when that internally produced heat is removed faster than it can be replaced. And the most efficient thief of heat is not snow, not ice, not even cold walls. It is moving air. Wind does one simple but devastating thing. It strips away the thin layer of warm air that surrounds your body and replaces it with colder air, over and over again. The faster the air moves, the faster heat disappears. This is why the same temperature can feel survivable in one situation and lethal in another. A calm, enclosed space can be far colder than freezing and still be endured. A windy environment, only slightly below freezing, can become dangerous very quickly. Ancient builders understood this instinctively. They did not measure winter by numbers on a scale. They measured it by how violently the environment interacted with the human body. Their goal was not to eliminate cold. It was to eliminate rapid heat loss. Modern thinking often gets this backward. We focus on generating heat, stronger heaters, hotter fires, higher output. But at the same time, we allow air movement, leaks, and instability to continue unchecked. The result is a constant arms race, heat produced, heat stolen, over and over again. Ancient shelters refused to play that game. They reduced air movement. They blocked wind. They created spaces where heat had nowhere to escape quickly. The environment became quiet, predictable, slow. Once heat loss is slowed down, the body's natural heat production becomes sufficient. Not comfortable in a luxurious sense, but survivable. Stable. And this leads to the next question, the one that actually matters. If stopping rapid heat loss is the key, then what role did dirt and stone really play? Because they didn't make shelters warm. They did something far more powerful. When people hear that ancient shelters made of dirt and stone stayed warm in winter, they usually imagine the wrong thing. They picture Earth as naturally warm. They assume stone somehow traps heat. Neither is true. Dirt does not generate heat. Stone does not feel warm to the touch. In winter, both feel cold immediately. So if they don't create warmth, why do they work? The answer has nothing to do with temperature, and everything to do with time. Air changes temperature almost instantly. A gust of wind, an open gap, a pressure shift, and heat is gone within seconds. This is why modern buildings rely so heavily on active heating systems. Earth and stone behave very differently. They change temperature slowly, extremely slowly. When they cool down, it takes hours, sometimes days, for that change to fully penetrate their mass. And once they warm up, they release that heat just as reluctantly. This creates what engineers now call thermal delay. Thermal delay does not make a space hot. It makes a space stable. In an earth and stone shelter, night cold arrives late. Daytime warmth leaves slowly. Sudden temperature swings are absorbed before they reach the interior. Weather still exists outside, but inside, its rhythm is distorted. Winter no longer strikes in sharp blows. It becomes a slow, constant pressure, one the human body can adapt to. This is why underground spaces feel cool in summer and strangely tolerable in winter. They are not optimized for comfort. They are optimized for resistance to extremes. Ancient builders did not know physics formulas, but they understood something more practical. Places that change slowly are easier to survive in. They didn't try to react to winter hour by hour. They designed spaces that limited how fast nature was allowed to act. Earth and stone became a kind of silent technology. No moving parts, no energy input, no active control, just mass, patience, and delay. Once this principle is understood, another uncomfortable question emerges. If slowing change is so effective, if stability matters more than raw heat, then why do many modern homes, with far more power and technology, struggle to achieve the same stability? Why do they feel warm one moment and hostile the next? To answer that, we have to look at what modern design optimized for, and what it accidentally sacrificed. At first glance, modern homes should dominate winter. They have powerful heaters, advanced materials, precise temperature control, sensors, thermostats, automation. By every measurable standard, they are stronger. And yet, many of them struggle with something ancient shelters handled surprisingly well: stability. Modern buildings are designed to react quickly. Turn the heater on. The room warms fast. Turn it off. The warmth vanishes just as fast. This responsiveness feels like control, but in winter, it becomes a weakness, because speed cuts both ways. Fast heating also means fast cooling. Lightweight materials store little thermal energy. Thin walls respond instantly to the outside world. The result is a constant battle. Heat is produced aggressively, then stolen aggressively. Energy consumption rises, but the environment never truly settles. Ancient structures were built around the opposite assumption. They accepted that you cannot stop winter. So instead, they slowed it down. Modern design often optimizes for efficiency, cost, and flexibility. But in doing so, it sacrifices mass. Less mass means less thermal inertia. Less inertia means more fluctuation. And more fluctuation means discomfort and vulnerability. This is why two homes at the same temperature can feel completely different. One feels calm, predictable, quiet. The other feels tense, fragile, always on the verge of losing warmth. It isn't about insulation quality alone. It's about what happens when systems fail. Ancient shelters remained habitable even without active heating. Modern homes often do not. When power disappears, stability disappears with it. This reveals a deeper problem. We mistake power for resilience. We assume that stronger systems automatically mean safer systems. But resilience comes from reducing dependency, not increasing output. Ancient builders embedded stability into the structure itself. Modern builders often outsource it to machines. One approach resists change by design. The other fights change continuously. And winter always favors the first. Understanding this isn't about rejecting modern technology. It's about recognizing what was lost when speed became the priority. Because the real advantage of earth and stone was never comfort. It was forgiveness. Forgiveness when systems failed. Forgiveness when conditions worsened. Forgiveness when humans made mistakes. And that is a lesson modern design still struggles to relearn. By now, it's clear that ancient builders weren't performing magic. They weren't smarter in a modern technical sense. They simply understood something we tend to overlook. They designed for stability, not performance. Winter was only the classroom. The lesson applies far beyond dirt, stone, or shelters. In many areas of modern life, we've adopted the same flawed assumption that strength comes from power. More speed, more output, more intensity. When something feels unstable, we respond by pushing harder. Ancient design took the opposite approach. Instead of increasing force, it reduced exposure. Instead of reacting faster, it slowed the system down. And the result wasn't comfort, it was resilience. This principle shows up everywhere once you start looking for it. In health, stability matters more than extremes. In work, sustainable effort beats bursts of intensity. In relationships, consistency outperforms dramatic gestures. Systems fail not because they are weak, but because they change too fast under pressure. Ancient shelters survived winter because they limited how violently the environment could act on the human body. Modern systems often fail because they allow constant volatility, then try to compensate with power. The deeper insight is uncomfortable. We've become very good at building things that work perfectly, as long as nothing goes wrong. Ancient builders assumed things would go wrong, so they designed spaces that remained survivable even when control was lost. No fuel, no electricity, no active management. Just a structure that resisted extremes by default. This doesn't mean we should abandon modern technology. It means we should rethink what we expect technology to do. Instead of asking, how can this system respond faster? We might ask, how can this system change less? Because the goal isn't to dominate the environment. It's to remain functional when conditions deteriorate. Winter taught ancient engineers that lesson early. They didn't defeat the cold. They made it irrelevant. And that may be the most valuable insight they left behind. Not just for surviving winter, but for building lives that don't collapse the moment conditions change.